Hello, everybody, and welcome to the April 6th, 2021 iteration of the Kubernetes SIG Windows community meeting. As always, these meetings are recorded and uploaded to YouTube, so please be sure to adhere to all of the CNCF code of conduct and standards. All right, let's kind of just get into it. I do see a couple of new people on the line. Usually we just kind of open it up if anybody wants to introduce themselves. There's no kind of obligation to do so, but if anybody just wants to say hi or just ask questions or kind of introduce themselves, feel free to either raise your hand or just go ahead and do that. All right, Jamie, I see you.
Yep, I'm Jamie Phillips. I'm new, so.
All right, I guess, is there anything you could also share? Is there anything specific that you would like to get out of the meeting, or?
Just learning about the current state of Windows support for Kubernetes.
Okay, cool. We have a pretty light agenda, so we could probably go into that some more if there's anybody, or like if people are interested. Anybody else?
Hey, I'm Sladen. Even I'm new, so yeah, I just like contributed a bit to the release team for Kubernetes release engineering, and I seen that I can maybe hop on here and help you folks out with some interesting stuff. So yeah, looking to learn more about SIG Windows and chop my wood in the community. So yeah.
All right, great. Yeah, we could. I guess I see that you added that on there as well. We could probably just go into that then after this. I don't think there's many announcements. I think that the KubeCon North America CFP, the call for proposals, got pushed out a little bit. So if anybody's interested in submitting that, I had a link down here somewhere. Yeah, we could check that out. If anybody's interested in submitting, there's some guides on how to do that. And yeah, it looks like it got extended to the end of May. There's some examples of kind of what would make a good proposal, what wouldn't, and just some tips here. It's a good way to just kind of get your name out there, get used to speaking, and especially if you're interested in promoting anything Windows related, will help it out. All right, getting to this, I think the only thing we had was Sladen here, the SIG release liaison. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to this note, or just saying hi and then you can maybe talk about this in a little bit?
I came across it in the I guess it was Laurie's call for like help. So yeah, that's I just wanted to add that, and maybe as much as I can help, although I would need a lot of context here, but yeah, I'm willing to learn. That's it.
Yeah, I was. This is in response to that enhancements liaison.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was going to introduce that. I think Laurie said that she could join, but later. So for anybody who is kind of unfamiliar with that, Laurie has been working on a proposal for a new role for the Kubernetes community. That's an enhancements liaison or a release liaison. And this is a new, I'll have to ask Laurie for the link to that or find it. This is a new role kind of that's born out of the recent changes introduced in the 121 release, where SIGs now need to kind of push information about what enhancements they're updating and pursuing to the enhancements team. Laurie thought that for a lot of SIGs, it makes sense to kind of define that as a specific role that could rotate release after release, just to kind of help out. Some SIGs have like dozens of enhancements, and so it's hard to keep track of. This is something that each SIG is kind of can opt into doing this. I think we definitely think it's a good opportunity to help people who are interested in kind of pursuing this. If Laurie does join later, we'll have her kind of introduce it or a little bit more, and if not, we'll share the links and everything. But so yeah, thank you for your interest in that. Jay, did you have anything you wanted to? I saw in the SIG Windows Lead Slack you wanted to talk about the kubeproxy work. Did you want to talk about that? If not, we can kind of.
Yeah, I joined a little late. Sorry, I just completely lost track of time. Was deep in something else. So, did I? Yeah. So, Sladen had actually, I believe, mention something about the kube proxy stuff also. I was thinking we could go through maybe that and image builder today when we start pairing on stuff. I didn't put this in the agenda, but I got really confused this weekend when I was playing with ISOs and image builder. And then I realized that I've always been building images using a special ISO that Perry gave me. And I never really tried the evaluation versions. And then I got really lost. And I realized we don't have anything in our docs, I don't think, about the difference between MSDN versus evaluation versions of Windows and whether there's different things we need to do to support them. And we don't have anything about that in image builder. And so I wanted to ask the image builder gods about what, I don't even know what questions I should be asking there. But does anybody have, should we have this in our docs, or should we have this, is this like a series of issues in image builder that we need to create, or?
So I think this only really affects people who are running on-prem and wouldn't affect any cloud provider. I guess the general question is, when we're talking upstream in image builder, should we be upstream? Should we be putting it, so configuring it for eval and then letting people do other, or should we be kind of, so what the way I've done it up till now is I've kind of been mandating that people bring their own licensed media to be able to use image builder, which is what Jay's talking about with special ISO. Just means I actually have a license. And whether we should be upstream in GitHub, whether we should be doing that as an eval media, and therefore, and then just changing that downstream.
Yeah, as Perry mentioned, I think this is going to be really specific to the platform that you're building the images for. Like in Azure, we don't even base our images off of an ISO. We base them off of a marketplace VHD that's already there. And like in Azure, you can bring your own license, but if you don't bring your own license, the VM, or like you're just by running the Windows Server license, you're getting kind of a time shared license. So I think these are good questions, especially for on-prem deployments.
Okay. So, I mean, do we have a topology here of stuff that you could possibly pump into image builder? Like we've got evaluation version, we've got marketplace VHDs, we've got Perry, what is the thing that you always give me? The MSDN? What, I don't even know.
Yeah, it's just,
what do you call
I've just got an MSDN subscription that I just download the ISO from, and then I use that as my media because it's licensed. But yeah, my general question is, do we want to change image builder so that people who are building upstream are using an eval media and therefore don't need to provide their own ISO? They can just grab it's configured for eval, or should we be presuming that they're going to be having licensed media if they're going to be using image builder?
Is there a way to, I'm trying to think, like, I think
Am I the only idiot that's doing this? Like, if that's it, then I don't want to create a bunch of work for y'all. I'm lost here. Is this important?
I think that this is largely going to be dependent, like, so for the are we talking about for the reference images or for the ones that people like are going to build and deploy on their own?
It's literally as simple as I've had to write an unattend or used an unattend.json or XML, and I've put in the standard product SKU that comes out of that. So the product, the generic, product key that you can use. And it's whether I should be doing that. I mean, I would love for somebody to generate something that stops me having to write a separate unattend file for every version that I put into image builder, but I don't think a tool exists of that.
Why do we need the product SKU? I don't even.
It's just that there's an XML file that you have in the repo, which I think every Packer repo that has these things has this same problem, that you basically have to write one for every version that you're running. And there's no way of just auto generating that from a CLI or something that stops you having to worry about it.
Because when I deleted it, it seemed to be okay. I had other problems,
Mhm.
but
So like this is more just, I think, some context about how the Windows licensing and works. So there's many different SKUs of Windows Server. There's like server data center, server standard, and both of those come with a GUI and a non-GUI flavor. And the differences between those are really just like how many, I think it's how many cores you can run like that edition of Windows on. But then for each edition of Windows, there's also what's released as an eval version of that SKU. And that is just with an evaluation license, where I believe you have 30 days in order to activate it, in order to kind of comply with the licensing mandates. The normal SKUs are they're armed, assuming that you have a license and you have a certain amount of time to kind of register that license with whatever your licensing server is. Sometimes those are just on-prem licensing servers. Sometimes they're just with kind of the Windows like update
also the
infrastructure.
only difference between data center and standard is like license stuff. Otherwise they're the exact same. I didn't know that.
Pretty much, I believe so now. There may be some features that are like some backup restore features that are different. I'm not sure what the latest, but in like Windows Server 2012 timeframe, there used to be more differences. I think they're converging.
Isn't there a difference in the like container hosting side of it too? Like how many you can run versus, yeah, there's some difference there with VMs and Hyper-V and containers, I think too.
But I think functionally, it's the same. There's just soft limits in them. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I didn't know that. Great. Okay.
So I guess the question, like I mentioned for the Azure image builder, and I'm guessing EKS too, there's like the marketplace images that get published that we're using to start off with and add kind of the Kubernetes special magic. There's not an option to even target the eval SKUs. So I'm actually don't have enough information to comment on this yet.
I mean, I think that we should do nothing and just say we only support MSDN right now because that's the only thing that works. I mean, unless somebody has a strong opinion on this, because it seems like nobody else has had this problem before.
I always kind of viewed this as like there's reference images, and that's what we're kind of checking in. There's steps and guides on how to build, or tooling on how to build reference images that get published to the image builder repository. But then the recommendations or guidance is for anybody who actually wants to deploy this in their own clusters to tweak it and customize it and build their own images. So I wonder if we should have the reference images be based off of that eval SKUs. But Perry, are the images or the questions you're asking, are you talking about for reference images or images that you guys are using in production, or for?
I'm just wondering how to handle, so inside of image builder, I just need to know whether you realistically, whether we want to specify a product like the generic product code that requires activation, or whether I should just remove that from the unattended and just have it as a blank product key, which then would allow building.
What is the benefit of having the product thing in there? Actually, big shout out to Stewie. He was the one, Stuart Preston was the one that told me to delete the product queue. And then I did that product thing and I did it and it worked. And I was so happy. And then I had a really good Saturday after that. I was like, okay, this is it. I feel like I accomplished something.
So, it just allows you to download an ISO from MSDN from like a licensed edition and then run it. That's the only benefit. And it saves you having to go and look for what key to use.
But if I'm already using image builder, I've already downloaded an ISO. I still have to download it. That's just a thing I do.
Yeah, I believe that like if you're running an unlicensed version of the Windows server, there is a point in time where some functionality will stop working. I don't know if it's just you won't receive updates. This is kind of changed, or if they'll start cutting features. Plus, you're just kind of running in an unlicensed manner, which is legal
Which you
gray
should
water.
not do, Jay.
Yeah,
You
legal
should
gray
not
water.
do-
Um,
Some of the features should not be enabled to.
Yeah, okay, so they've changed kind of the model of what happens if you're not doing this. And there are, like, if you're running if you are running with the licensed version, there are checks in Windows to periodically, contact licensing servers and make sure you're valid, and they will start.
So the other reason that we should not support eval is that when you run the evaluation version, it makes you pick those 4 different things that Mark mentioned: data center standard, data center GUI, data center whatever. And that's not something that, to my knowledge, I don't know if that's something that we can pick for people. I don't know. So maybe we should just,
Sorry, go ahead, Jay.
maybe we don't support eval.
Well, you're implicitly picking that. There, you're. I guess Perry has already made that decision for you if you're using
Yeah.
one of his images.
You have to let Perry choose for you, because otherwise there's no automatic, there's no other thing you can do. Like, you're gonna have to be clicking around and doing random stuff.
Well, you can unattend all of that. So you can just
We could just default to standard. Okay.
you could
or
have
something.
the image building kind of inputs say what SKU do you want, and I'm guessing for most people the SKU that they're going to want is data center, because I'd imagine they're doing this to run many containers and at a time and scale the workload.
James has just said it should be configurable and documented, which is true. So
Yeah.
maybe the ultimate thing we need to achieve is how to make this configurable and documented. So maybe we'll put this onto there is an issue in image builder repo. So try and work out how we can configure this so that people get what they want when they use image builder, and document what would be deployed by default. So what to download by default.
Okay. I mean, I agree that it should be all those things. What my big question here is priority. How important is this? Am I the only person that's had this problem? And is this, I'm just wondering, like, some intuition here. Like, is this just, I'm doing something stupid and it's a theoretical thing we're fixing? Or
I think
Because
this depends on how widely these images are being used. If these images are being used kind of in any sort of production capacity, I would say this is fairly high priority. But if it's just for like getting tests up and running or kind of development scenarios, then it's probably not too high of priority. But I would make sure that if anybody is using image builder to build images to run CAPI clusters in any sort of production workload, that they're just following like the licensing guidelines and everything.
of course, yeah, of course. So okay. So there's the licensing thing, and then there's the how we support the thing.
Yes.
Normally, most companies would be using. Hi, what's up, Ravi? Go ahead.
Yeah, so to be clear, we sort of faced this issue when we were building CI images for OpenShift, and we did not pursue the route. But what, at a high level, I think Jay, we sort of discussed this some time ago, was have a configurable field and that is what James is suggesting too. Like in the Packer script or in the subsequent builder that you are using, which is like post build, you can say that this is the environment variable, which contains the SKU, and then you can generate the auto unattend.xml based on the SKU, and you can use that for the new machine that you want to build.
Yeah, it's all related, tied into that. All of those unattend XMLs that get passed to set up to when you're installing Windows from an ISO image. So
Yeah.
Another option.
Sorry,
or go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing that I have seen people doing is once the system is up, like we can unregister and then register again with the new SKU, and you can put it as a post configuration script in Packer. That's something that I've seen people doing too.
Yeah, I was going to suggest something similar. Once we have these host process containers or the privileged containers, it might even make sense to default to always using eval SKUs, and then somebody could schedule just a daemon set that will arm or upgrade or arm any licensing mechanisms there. So that way it would be completely configurable, and end users wouldn't have to muck with the auto unattend XML files, which are not the most intuitive and definitely not easy to debug. But
true.
So
Oh, that's really interesting.
I mean, this is really pointing at whether we should be asking customers to use images built using image builder or image builder images in production, right? And the answer to that should always be no. It doesn't matter whether it's configurable or not, would be my take, because you don't want them running afoul of any sort of Windows licensing requirement. And they shouldn't come back and blame us that you told us to do this, and because of this, I ran afoul of some licensing agreement. We can give them suggestions on how to fix it, but I don't know whether we need to get into the game of telling someone who wants to run this in production about what to do.
yeah, this is like, I believe that the official stance is anything that's in the image builder repository are only for reference images, and that people need to build their own images. But I think in the Windows case, we should make that messaging stronger and kind of tie that to licensing things. And if we're doing that, then I think what I'm hearing is maybe we should like always use eval SKUs, because then people wouldn't ever run amok with licensing. Their workloads will just stop working after 30 days. But that's probably better than
Going to
licensing
jail.
violations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Lori,
Okay.
I see Lori joined. There were a couple people interested in the release liaison or the enhancements liaison. Did you want to talk about that real quick? Or
Sure, can do.
I kind of introduced it briefly, but I didn't link to any of your proposal yet.
No, that's great. I can just share it this way. So basically, this is an idea that spun out of a conversation I was having with Dims. Many of you know Dims. He's everywhere in Kubernetes, fixing the things, and on the architecture SIG and the steering committee and other things, other committees. But basically, over time, we've noticed that responsiveness to the release team can be tricky. This is a documented issue. There's a GitHub issue from 1.17 about it, and lots of improvements have been made since then to improve process, but we still would like more collaboration between the release team and SIGs. And we'd also like to see if we can get more people like me involved in the project who aren't contributing code, but are contributing process improvements, keeping things running, helping SIGs break down topics into roadmaps, collecting data to keep things just moving along. So the idea of this enhancements liaison was that there would be one or more people, ideally more than one person, embedding in a SIG like Windows and being the point of contact for the release team when they have questions about enhancements. So this would free up the chairs and tech leads from doing all of that heavy lifting. You don't really need to have detailed coding expertise to do this. You basically just need to be communicative and available and be able to manage your time so that you can respond to the release team in a short enough period where you help them keep their process running along and you don't leave them waiting. So this can also work not just with enhancements, but also with the comms team. So if you're having a blog post on an enhancement, coordinating with them to make sure that they get what they need. And, it's just basic alignment, collaboration, coordination, communication. And we would time box this role for one release cycle so that you know when it will end. And of course, you can continue doing it if Windows, if you like doing this and Windows needs the help. But just to release pressure on folks, it would be through 122 to start. And you would get some onboarding from me and Anna Young, who is the enhancements lead for 121. She's been doing enhancements related work for some time and is a reviewer for the sub-project. By the way, we have an enhancement sub-project. This is where we discuss the process around enhancements to try to make it easier to get your enhancement into Kubernetes with minimal overhead. So how was that for a summary?
It's good. Yep.
Cool. I can tell you this is not a shadow release team. This is a person embedded in a SIG like any other contributor. Your special job is just focusing on coordinating and communicating with that release team when they have asks.
And
I think this is great. Yeah.
yeah, I was just going to add that any of the leads, myself, James, or Jay, will be willing to help out as well. So if anybody's interested, I guess, yeah, let us know. We're interested in helping people who want to kind of take on this role for our SIG.
What are the big things for this release? I'm totally not aware of what we release. I just am kind of all over the place.
So for this release, we didn't have many big enhancements. There were for SIG Windows, most of the enhancements that were kind of in flight had wrapped up in the 119, 120 timeframe. There were 2 new enhancements. Neither of them made it fully into this release as an alpha release. That was the host process containers, but we are still pursuing alpha in 122. And then the log viewer work that Aravind was writing, and hopefully that will also pursue alpha in 122.
What's the reason for the slip that you just need more folks working on the KEPs, or what was the core issue there?
The reason for the host process slip was largely just reviewer bandwidth. Both the KEP review and the code review for the implementation came in either the night before or after the enhancement or code freeze deadline, respectively. And there was a lot of features that were graduating to beta or stable that all of the reviewers said rightly took kind of precedent over that. So the the log viewer one, I think that there were still some open questions or concerns from some folks that I think are still trying to be resolved. Mainly how to handle some of the kind of Linux and Windows differences.
Do you have your alignment plan worked out there? Like, are you able to track your responses you're getting and set up your conversations?
I'll let Aravind comment on that.
Yeah, so that's kind of died down at the point. In fact, I was going to bring it up at one of these meetings. I have also gotten distracted and not refocused on it. But I think the main contention was trying to make this invisible to the end user. This new feature that we're adding, invisible to the end user, whether they need to look at a log file or know that, you know, the kubelet is running as a service. And that's sort of like I don't know. I couldn't think of a good solution for that. And I think we, like Mark and I discussed with Moz, that, you know, given the nature of the feature and given that it's a cluster admin only feature, that sort of differentiation was okay in our respect. And we were hoping to get some more feedback with folks who are trying to use this feature, add that to the KEP. And then I was going to respond to Peter that, hey, you know, this is a advanced feature. Is it okay to have this sort of differentiation? That's where it was at. I think I was still waiting to hear from getting more feedback from some of the other users.
Yeah, I think that I had tried to have some folks comment on the issue, and I don't think anybody took a look, more folks, but this might be a good platform for that, to see if anybody's interested with this. Do you want to bring this up again? Should we talk about this at the next meeting pretty early on, yeah. Aravind? I think we're kind of running out of time here.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll add it to the next week agenda.
Okay. Yeah, I think that the biggest kind of blocking question, though, to summarize, was how to make some of these operations more transparent to end users. And I think what Aravind is saying is that we don't necessarily want to do that because this is kind of advanced functionality. So just convincing some of the reviewers that, or providing use cases for that, I think is what will help move this forward. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Just really quick, if you would find it useful, we could work on creating a 122 plan. We've talked before about some of your old backlog items, like the ones that aren't as urgent, seem not to get touched. And so how could we integrate some of those into your 122 activities if it makes sense, given your other priorities? You also had talked about some of your contributor goals, like how many commits could you get? How many new contributors could you get? So if you thought comprehensive plan for 122, the covering all of your goals might be useful. We could do that. We could work on that and publish it as well so others could see it.
Yeah, let's do something like that.
I feel like Arvin's thing is like it could find new life somehow if we moved it into, like if we functioned as a SIG more like a startup, we could make a plan that wasn't going to get interfered so much by the fact that we can't get everything in Linux and Windows to be the same, right? So I feel like if we combined this, I feel like we could try to make a plan that was a little more independent and maybe rethink Arvin's thing because he did all this work. And maybe that work is super valuable because we can say, this is why we decided to do this. We weren't able to do it, right? I feel like we could build tools.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Arvin's work, I think, was a little bit different because it needed to have updates from the kubelet and the kubectl and a couple of other core components that weren't really, to me, possible to not have larger parts of the community kind of review. And I think rightly so, like we want to review all of these, especially the security aspects of it. So this particular KEP is probably not a great use case for trying to spin up a separate project that is only impacts Windows. But in the future, there may be some opportunities for that. But yes, that sounds great, Lori. Let's maybe devote some or most of the next community meeting to kind of going over some 122 plans and priorities. And
sounds good.
That
We can
sounds good.
also start an async doc and then review it during the meeting. And I would include how you manage your dependencies, because I know that's an issue for you, like how you can get what you need from other SIGs. Let's come up with some sort of plan, cadence for how you can best interact with those to keep your things moving forward.
Sure, sounds good. Yeah, we can work on in Slack on that async doc and then present it and share that here next week.
To revisit that though, Mark, the whole idea of being able to easily get logs from Windows nodes is still a generic problem, I think, right? It's not. I feel like we could have a generic. I still feel like we could think outside the box on that solution or something, and build off that KEP, even though if the implementation is different.
I mean, Jay, if we want to build a separate tool, we can go ahead and do it. That's totally doable, right? You run a service on the Windows node and you create a separate tool that talks to that service and you can do it. But I don't know whether we want to go down that route for this particular area.
Okay.
And have a customer have to do something different when it comes to Windows. So I see where what you want to do, but I don't think it's very appropriate for this particular umbrella.
Yeah.
Until we have the privileged containers, I think anything that requires services to be installed and running on the node to kind of light up functionality is kind of a pretty high barrier to entry. So I tend to agree with Arvin with this.
We're so close to having
it. But yeah, saying, hey, you needed to do all of this stuff on your nodes before you wanted to get to logs. For users on Windows, where with Linux you can just do kubectl logs the node. It highlights kind of some pretty big deficiencies, or would highlight some pretty big deficiencies in the Windows ecosystem.
Well, Mark, for the record, they don't have it for Linux either for the kubectl logs. That's what this feature is trying to do, right? It's trying to do it for both Linux and Windows. Yeah.
Yes.
To be continued.
Yeah, let's continue this next community meeting. I think we're already over time. All right, I'm going to stop the recording and hand it over to Jay for the the pairing sessions, which we are doing each week after this. So thanks all for attending, and hope to see you next week. Bye.
Okay, everybody. So let's see. I was thinking I wasn't sure yet about whether we talked about two things this week, which is Windows proxy out of tree, and the other one was the whole deal of this image builder auto attend stuff. And I feel like since Perry's here, but I don't know how long we're going to have him, I feel like looking at auto attend might be at least a good place to start, auto and attend and the image builder stuff, because we haven't really gone into that, I don't think, before. Does anybody want to talk about anything though before we start jumping into things? I see Friedrich is here. Maybe you want to give an update on your stuff.
Well, I don't want to crash this thing again after last time.
Okay.
So a quick update. Yeah, I created. I'm working on the automatization of building an Windows Linux virtual machine cluster, and I try to automate it as far as possible. And I had a lot of trouble with, so I'm using Vagrant and a Vagrant file, and a lot of trouble with pushing around Windows with Vagrant, especially if you have to do reboots. That's no fun. So what I feel I'm a little embarrassed to say this. So the point is, if you send the commands directly to via WinRM via your Linux console, you send them directly. It works like a charm, but if you write it down into a Vagrant file, you get errors. So I thought, okay, but how can I automate this then? And I feel a little ashamed. I put it into a make file, and then it works. And there's still some issues because you have to escape so many characters, basically from the make file to, I think, Vagrant, and then to PowerShell. And yeah, you have to escape a lot of characters, $signs and whatnot. So I'm now working with a third platform. I'm creating PowerShell scripts. So it works. It's a little duct tape and good hope.
we like duct tape around here. This is really cool though. Yeah. So awesome. So what I told Friedrich was, it's really cool that you've got something automated that you've built along that we're going to finally have like documented and stuff. So I think it's really cool, even without CNI, to get this thing as a V0. So good job, Friedrich. Looking forward to seeing that first PR, no matter how ugly it is. It's going to be awesome. So Perry, I feel like maybe he might be able to get some support from you at this point, since he's pretty deep in this stuff. So Friedrich, feel free to reach out to Perry. He's done, I feel like the point where you can start getting a lot of help from him and maybe some other people, but I feel like,
there aren't many people to share your time zone. So
yeah.
You said this the last time. I'm always trying to do it myself, which is not the smartest idea sometimes, but this time I will reach out to you, Perry.
Yeah,
feel free. I'm in the UK, so not a million miles away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So Friedrich's project updates. So okay, so the big issue is though for you, I just want to make sure we get this down. I should probably be recording this. Hold on one second.
It's already recording.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
I thought we stopped recording. Did I start recording again?
No, I don't think I ever stopped.
Maybe we didn't actually stop it.
Oh, okay. Let me stop the recording and then restart it. Hold on. How do I do this? Stop recording.